I think it's safe to say that we all would agree that porn kills love. It kills the love of ourselves and distorts the way that we see and look at other people in our lives. And when we talk about how we view ourselves when we're caught up in struggling with a pornography addiction, we know that our confidence has been shattered. Shame has taken roots in our lives, and shame identifies ourselves as a bad person. And then we talk about the objectification and the sexualization of everybody else in our lives. For most of the men that are struggling with a pornography addiction, this is something that has been with them since a very young age. And there's clear supporting evidence that shows early age exposure leads to the compulsive and addictive nature later on in life and the struggles that come with trying to break free from a pornography addiction. Changes how we see ourselves. It changes how we see others in our lives. Talked about my opinion is that pornography is one of the most selfish behaviors that a man can participate in. In the moment of feeling urged, triggered, potentially thinking about going back and relapsing with pornography, whatever is going on in our life, we are unable to handle and process situation. So we use other human beings through a screen to satisfy our own internal desires through self-gratifying pleasure. Porn kills love. I think that we all would agree with that. It changes how we see ourselves. It changes how we see others. And I always talk about a man, if he's going to walk on the other side of freedom, he must understand that there is a clear line that he has to get to where he can appreciate and acknowledge a woman's beauty. He can appreciate and acknowledge the acceptance of another human being in his life without objectifying or participating in that person's beauty. But how do we get there? Yes, we know we have to go through a period of abstinence, completely removing pornography from our life. So we can allow our brains to heal, reboot, rewire, desexualize, de objectify. That's all done on the defense. But what about the offensive strategies that a man can take? What are some things that we can do to change how we see others, which ultimately change how we see ourselves? I think one of the greatest acts that a man that is struggling with pornography addiction can embark in is service. Beginning to find ways in your life where you can show up, serve, love on, bring value to other people. You may be struggling with a pornography addiction right now if you're listening to this, but the fact that you have the access to consume this information puts you in a 0.1% of human beings in the world today. You have access to streaming internet. You have access to an iPhone, to a Samsung, to an Android. You have access to shelter, food, water, transportation. All of your core fundamental needs are being met. But we know that there's a hierarchy of human needs. It just steps above the basic needs to keep yourself living and breathing is the need for intimacy, the need for relationships, the need for service. My friend Sathia Sam talks a lot about pornography addiction is an intimacy disorder. In order for us to break free and create freedom in our lives, we must redefine the meaning of intimacy in our life and we must recreate opportunities for intimacy. I think most people, when they hear intimacy, they immediately go to sex. And we've had Tony DiLorenzo on the podcast with the Superhuman Life multiple times, author of the great book, Six Pillars of Intimacy, unpacking how there are levels and layers to the intimate relationships in our life. It just doesn't have to be with the female partners. Being intimate with others through acts of service plays a fundamental role in the rebooting, rewiring, desexualiz- desexualizing of your brain. So I want to talk to you today about 5 benefits of the acts of service on your brain and how you showing up for others, finding opportunities in your church, in your community, in your homes to serve others can rewire your brain, and it can be a big part of your recovery and your path to creating freedom in your life. So, what are acts of service? These are opportunities where you take your time, your energy, your resources without expecting anything in return. Give it to others. If you're a member of a church, there's always great opportunities. They're always in need of feet on the floor, hands on the chairs, whether that's being a door greeter, handing out flyers, being a part of the prayer team, being a part of the worship team, being a part of the tech team, being working behind the scenes, working in front of the scenes. If you live in big metropolitan cities, we know that there's a homeless crisis right now going on in the States. Look for ways to work a soup kitchen, serve food. Look for ways to donate your dollars, donate your resources, donate your past clothes. And I have a great friend every month. He sets up at the beginning of the month. He takes a couple hours with his kids. They go to Sam's Club. They buy cases of water. They buy packs of socks. They buy packs of trail mix, packs of other foods. And he and his kids will sit at the kitchen table for a few hours one Sunday every month. And he has his kids involved in this process where they're packing these giant gallon sized bags and he keeps them in the back of his SUV. And that way, anytime he's out and about and he sees somebody in need, he has what's already readily available for them on hand. So you can volunteer at homeless shelters, you can volunteer at food shelters, you can volunteer at humane societies, animal shelters. You could donate clothes, you could donate blankets. You could volunteer at youth centers, big brothers, big sisters, community centers. There's endless amount of ways. Five benefits though that will actually play a role in rebooting, rewiring, and changing the neurochemistry of your brain. Number one is the positive reinforcement. We talked about how when we're caught up and we're struggling, we see ourselves through a negative lens. Acts of service trigger a positive reinforcement loop in your brain, releasing neurotransmitters like dopamine that is associated with pleasure and reward. This can play a fundamental role in helping you shift your focus away from the addictive behavior and then leaning us into benefit number two, the creation of new habits. Involvement in these acts of service will establish new habits and routines, which will be crucial for breaking this cycle. If you're watching porn a few hours every single week, but instead you take that time and spend it on new ways to show up, serve, and love people, you're creating new neural pathways associated with healthy behaviors. And these will begin to form in your brain, which will lead to the building of self esteem. The third benefits acts of service contribute to a sense of accomplishment, self worth. I have something I can give to somebody else. It can play a crucial role in rebuilding your confidence and self respect for yourself that oftentimes are impacted and affected by the addiction. Number four is acts of service can play as a distraction for coping mechanisms. When you're urged, when you're triggered, when you're feeling alone and isolated, who can you reach out to? If you're serving in a men's group, you can reach out to your brothers. If you're serving with the youth, you can reach out to the youth in their lives and find ways to love on them. This active involvement in this task can redirect your mind away from the cravings and triggers that may lead you back to the addictive behavior. And the fifth and final benefit is the social connection that is involved with acts of service. If you're serving others, then obviously you're going to be involved in interacting with other people, fostering positive social connections, which will be crucial in overcome the addiction. Because remember, once again, pornography addiction in one lens is a intimacy disorder, and we must redefine and recreate the intimacy within our lives. But building a support network that provides emotional support gives you the encouragement throughout the day in challenging and difficult times. Now, service isn't the only thing that you need to be focusing on, but I do believe it plays a big fundamental role So right now, if you're caught up and you're struggling and you feel like there's no way out of this, who are you showing up for? Who are you providing value? Whose life are you making better? Because I can guarantee when you focus on making other people's lives better, your life improves by a byproduct of that. Now, guys, if you're caught up and you're struggling with this addiction, I understand where you might be. I've been there before, and I've spoken with thousands of men that are in the exact same position that you're in right now. We talked about the role that service can play here today, but true freedom has to start with a vision for the life that you can live without pornography. If you don't know what that looks like right now, I want to give you the tools to develop a vision for your life. I put together a 5-part free training on how to get radically clear on the man that you can become and the life that you can live without pornography. If you visit www.rebuiltrecovery.com/vision or hit the link down there in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be down there in the description box. But this is a free training, guys. We walk you through identifying exactly who can be without this addiction in your life because it must start there. And included in that vision must be service of others. So if you're struggling, guys, stop looking inward, begin to look outward on how you can show up, love, and serve other people in your lives. Guys, I hope you got value out of today's episode. If you did, make sure to subscribe if you're watching here on the YouTube channel. We appreciate all you guys. We're trying to grow this platform here. And if you're on the audio, guys, ratings and reviews do more than you can truly understand. But Coach Frank here at Rebuilt Recovery, the Rebuilt Man podcast. We love you guys. And we'll see you in the next one.